Providentially, this priestly ordination of our Fr Tshepang Dithipe takes place on the day when we celebrate the feast of Our Lady, Mother of Africa. So in a way, by being ordained a priest on this day, Tshepang is being joined to the Blessed Virgin Mary in a very special way. His priesthood and his exercise of the priestly ministry are thus intertwined with the example shiningly put before us by the Blessed Virgin Mary in her disposition, in her manner of life. And the reading selected for this Mass put the story of the Blessed Virgin Mary in the context of a dream that God had for the world and for his people. That dream is beautifully expressed in the first reading taken from the prophet Zephaniah. This is the dream of a God who desires to be in the midst of his people, to make the burden they carry lighter, to forgive their sins and free them from the burden of guilt, to stand alongside them as they face the challenges of life, to strengthen them and to give them courage. That is the dream that our God has always had. It was in the context of this dream that Mary received her calling of being the mother of the Son of God, Jesus Christ. Through her, God fulfilled his long-cherished dream of making his home among his people, in order to journey with and alongside them in their earthly life. In her response to God's call throughout her whole life on earth, Mary becomes a shining example of how to become a channel of God's presence in the world. By accepting to be the mother of the Son of God, Mary thereby accepted to allow God's work of salvation to be carried out through her. Through her fiat, when she said, "Let it be done to me according to your word," she thereby accepted to align her whole life with God's plans and purposes for her individually and for the whole world. Mary thus becomes a shining example of how to understand priesthood and how to carry out the priestly ministry in the church. For fundamentally, the priestly ministry is about being a channel of God's presence among the people, after the example of our Lord Jesus Christ, the supreme mediator between God and people. And Mary, in a humble way, gives us yet another supreme example of how to be mediators or channels of God's presence in the world. In the story of her visitation to her cousin Elizabeth, who was also expecting a child, two things stand out about how to be channels of God's presence to other people. On visiting Elizabeth, Mary does not bring her any external gifts in the form of material things or symbolic objects. Instead, Mary brings her very own self as a gift. She brings her own loving presence as her gift to Elizabeth. She comes to share her joy and her gratitude. Being a channel of God's presence, Tshepang, is essentially a quality of being with others in a life-giving way. The priestly ministry in the church is primarily a ministry of presence. a ministry of mediating God's loving presence to the people we minister to. What is paramount is not what we do for the people, but rather how we are with the people. How we relate with the people, how we treat the people, how we minister to the people, and how we work with the people. That's what is paramount. Not so much the activities we carry out, important as they are, but they must be based on a quality of presence that mediates and reflects and radiates the presence of God just as Mary did. The other shining example of being a channel of God's presence that Mary gives us in her visitation to Elizabeth is that upon being proclaimed blessed by Elizabeth, who exclaims, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb," Mary responds by shifting the focus away from herself to God. God who had blessed her and given her the unique privilege of being the mother of the Son of God. Her song of joy, her Magnificat, is about praising and giving thanks to God. My soul glorifies the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for he has looked with favor on his glory servant, her Lord servant. Her only desire expressed in her song of joy is to be known only as God's lowly servant, as God's handmaid. Mary could have taken advantage of her blessedness and used it as a reason, even a platform, to feel important and to throw her weight around, making people notice her and admire her as the mother of the Messiah. Longing for praise and notice, Japan, is a typical human condition. Many of us dream for fame, fortune, and attention, the attention it brings, based on personal success or accomplishments. This was not so with Mary, with the Blessed Virgin Mary. She wanted nothing more and settled for nothing less than total surrender to God. It is a constant temptation, that faces us as priests, to use the role we play and the position we occupy in the church as a reason to promote ourselves. It's a constant temptation that faces us priests, to make ourselves more important than we actually are. We face that temptation. And many of us priests dream of fame, of attention, of admiration. And for some of us priests, this becomes the main motivating factor in how we carry out our Christian ministry. That people may admire us, that we may be the center of attention. And we see that in the phenomenon that you observe sometimes of some of us priests imitating, even mimicking the prosperity cult pastors who are mushrooming everywhere. You know those pastors. They dress shoes that as long as my arm. And in their churches, they want to be the focus of attention. People plant the seed. Only them will interest. People give them the money. Only them will reap. Now there's a phenomenon, we see some of our priests sometimes wanting to behave like those pastors. being actors, so that people can admire them. That's not what the Blessed Virgin Mary did. The focus has to be on God, on what God is doing, on the church and what the church is doing. So, may I not see you looking like a pastor. Tshepang, Siga para Jagabo pastor. Siga itwara Jagabo pastor. Ufada wa kereke araho ma na kira. Umutlanga wa kereke. Uyipokobeletsa kereke la na go tsotla. So remain focused. Sigale bara wena, le Maria, le Diana, le Diana. Wena le Maria. May God richly bless you on this day of your feast ordination, Tshepang, and strengthen you in the resolve to carry out the ministry you are commissioned to carry out today with dedication and enthusiasm. And may God bless the Archdiocese of Pretoria as we give thanks to God today for the gift of yet another feast. And as we continue to pray for more vocations to priesthood and religious life in our Archdiocese. And may God bless all of us who are present here today, and renew in all of us the desire to serve Him with all our heart.